Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. This is Jeff and Christine, and we are Inspired Beyond. Today, we have a special guest who's going to be joining us, and we're going to introduce her in a minute. It's it's a journey that a lot of people have gone through without stealing any of her thunder. I'd like to introduce Katie Dean to everyone here. Christine, do you have anything you want to say before we?
Yeah, let me formally introduce Katie. So, what I wanted to just share a little bit about her. First off, I just want to mention that Jeff and I have known Katie for a while. We have come across her in multiple different communities and some energy healing modalities. And so our paths tend to keep crisscrossing. And we thought she would be a great first person for us to interview. She's been very active this last year, a lot going on with her. I just want to share a little bit about Katie. So, Katie is an entrepreneur and an artist, an author, and an energy guide. Wow. So, helping people reconnect to their infinite supply of energy, avoid burnout, and recover from chronic fatigue. She's worked as a business strategy consultant and a while back, and she collapsed on her way to work one morning, and she's going to share a little bit about that. She was eventually diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome and spent 20 years seeking recovery. She now shares this incredible story that she's gained from this experience through her business. It's called Find My Energy, and an absolutely beautiful modality called the Kolorlan System, which we're going to have a separate podcast on that one because it's so incredible. But anyway, she's also an award-winning international bestseller, Finding the Energy to Thrive, Navigating the Maze of Life and Embracing Your Path to Wholeness. She's also been a featured teacher on 28 times award-winning TV show Navigating the Clickety Clack, How to Find a Peace-Filled Life in a Seemingly Toxic World. And that really intrigues me. I think we might want to chat a little bit about that because I was like, what is clickety clack? So we're going to have her talk about that. And she's spoken at events that included Dr. John DeMartini, Joe Vitale, and Marie Diamond. So anyway, she's an amazing gal, and we're so pleased to introduce her here today.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm so excited. I mean, having known you two for a few years now, I'm so excited that you're bringing this venture to the world. I know it's going to change lives, and I'm deeply, deeply honored to be your first guest on here. So thank you, thank you.
It's amazing. So we'd love to hear a little bit about you, particularly this chronic fatigue syndrome, which a lot of people have been diagnosed with, a lot of people struggling with it, and some may know a lot about it, some may not. But what happened with you? Can you share a little bit about your background?
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to take you all the way back to the year 2000. And I, that year, graduated from Cambridge University. I had a PhD and I made my way into the City of London, where I was working in the corporate world as a business strategy consultant. And long story short, 2 years into that career, I just collapsed on my way into work one morning. I mean, from my perspective back then, this kind of happened out of the blue. The job had been incredibly stressful. I was working absolutely crazy hours, which didn't leave much room for me to sort of take care of myself and my body. But at the space I was in back then, with the knowledge that I had, I didn't see this as a problem. I was in my mid-20s. I was superhuman, as we all are in our mid-20s. And I really just didn't see this coming. It seemed like overnight my entire world had just imploded. I found myself actually bedbound for weeks. I was housebound for months. It took 6 months to get a diagnosis. And when I did, that diagnosis was chronic fatigue syndrome. And the conventional medical world was like, yeah, we're really sorry, but we don't really understand what this illness is. We don't have any treatment for it. There's really no hope of a cure. So you're looking at this for the rest of your life. Ouch. So I don't know really. I mean, I look back now and I think a lot of this was kind of denial. I just simply could not believe that it was possible to collapse in your mid-20s and that to be it, my life to be over. All those dreams of, getting married, having a family, having the career, all of that up in smoke. So I was kind of, no, 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 there's got to be some answers here, was sort of one train of thought. And then the other train of thought was literally, as I say, the denial, like, this is not happening to me. So I'm just going to try and carry on and do the best I can, which is what I did for many years. I was living this kind of dual path of looking for answers and just trying to make the best of my life. I actually ended up growing a business working with beads. I mean, the necklace I'm wearing is one that I made. I was making jewelry, ornamental stuff, all sorts. And that kept me going. I mean, that gave me back some purpose because that was really one of the big things, the loss of purpose. And it supported me financially. So by 2012, I'd been on this dance where I was actually still technically employed by my corporate company. And I'd been on a path where I'd been completely off work for 5 years. Then I had this 5 year period where they were trying to get me back into work. So they essentially created my own special role within the company so that I could just do limited hours. They were incredibly supportive, but I ended up in this 5 year kind of boom and bust cycle where I'd managed to get in for sort of one morning a week for a period of a few weeks, and then that would finish me off and I'd be off work again for a few weeks or sometimes a few months, and then sort of do this gradual build up, and so it went on till 2012 when we all mutually decided that this was not helpful for anybody. So I left that job. That's when the beading started. I had 4 years at that point where I thought I was actually managing things really well. I'd started doing yoga. I'd got a bit of nutritional support. So I'd come to understand how key that is for our body. I'd learned about pacing, and I confess I wasn't doing it terribly well because I've got that real achiever pattern going on. So that's always been a bit of a struggle for me. But basically, I'd got more of a sense of how I could manage this thing. And I thought pat myself on the back. This is all lovely. 2016, universe had other ideas. And I'd basically got myself into a similar cycle of my beading business had become so successful that I was overstretching myself again, not to the degree I had in 2002, but too much for the level of energy I had at that point in time. And I basically collapsed again, right back to ground zero, right back to bed bound. All those plans and commitments I had with the beading, I had to give up. And it was soul destroying, and actually was the push that made me double down on the research. And I came back in and discovered that things had progressed since 2002. Ended up going to work with a functional doctor in London who did the first blood test that actually demonstrated something was wrong, my mitochondrial function. And for those who aren't familiar with this, mitochondria are like our body's batteries, like the batteries for our cells. So my mitochondrial function was really poor. So it's like I'm running on half-empty batteries. Well, no wonder I was feeling so ill. None of my organs or systems had the capacity to work optimally. So I went through a course of treatment with this man for about 6 months, but I didn't make as much progress as I thought I would, as he thought I would. And that was probably the point early 2017 when I really hit rock bottom, because I'd gone from, oh, right, now we've got some answers and we've got something we can do, to, oh, no, this hasn't worked either. So it was just the journey then continued. I continued working on the physical level, did get a little bit better, then reluctantly brought in this sort of psycho-emotional, realized that an awful lot of what's happening in our physical body is a reflection of emotions that we're carrying that are sort of stuck in our field. So that took me this next step further. And then the final piece was actually discovering the energy medicine and the modalities that, I've trained in since then, which took me back to finally 2022 was the year I would say that I fully healed, got back to a place where I can live life normally. I'm not sort of having to think, well, if I do this social activity, what will be the consequences? I just do things as my friends do. Um, so I actually now look back on this as the greatest gift. I never
Mhm.
thought back in 2000, as I was graduating, that 25 years on, I would be where I am now. And that gift has given me the opportunity to discover who I am. That's been the gift from the healing. And that's motivated me to share that gift with other people as well. So I mean that this is bigger than just chronic fatigue. It happens that my story through this path was chronic fatigue syndrome, but we all have our different entry points. What it is really is an invitation to see who we are and connect back to our true, whole, beautiful, joyful, loving, peaceful selves.
Katie, that is incredible. Jeff and I have been reading your book at night. We've got our Kindles there, and we're just sitting there
Oh,
reading the book. And we were so impressed with, first of all, your communication style, how you write. I mean, you're an excellent writer. But very relatable and easy to flow and read. And we just noticed, I mean, when you say 20 years, it's like up 20 years, that's a long, long time to be dealing with this. And when I was reading the book, and I'd love to get Jeff's feedback too, but for me, I wasn't dealing with chronic fatigue, but I had other things that I've been struggling with for a long, long time. And so I just noticed that like it's the same. It's chronic fatigue for you, but it's something else for us, in the audience. Each one of us is on our own journey. And you mentioned a few things in there that we'd love for you to talk about. You kind of described this healing journey as a maze. Uh, can you just kind of explain what that felt like for you? Just sort of this maze, because I think there's a lot of people, I know there are on the planet right now that are like, I feel terrible, I have no energy, and I have no idea what's going on, or they do and they don't know how to heal it because nothing's happening. Talk to
yeah.
them.
Yes. Okay. So to all of you, the maze analogy felt so apt for me. So I realized I speak about this in the book. I was actually in a real life proper 3D maze with my brother's very small children and had that experience where you're in this space that you're kind of feeling lost. There's different pathways all around you, and you've got this choice. Well, is that path going to take me to the place I want to go, or do I need this path? You will try a path. You may find that you've circled all the way back round to the point where you started. You're going to feel like you're getting more and more and more lost. And then suddenly you find yourself in, well, the center of the maze, if that's where you were headed, or getting out of the maze if you were heading out that way. And I realized that was my journey, and that is the journey for everyone else. Because when all this came together and I sat down and knew I was going to write a book, I would love to have been able to write the book that said, here are the 10 things that you need to do to get out of chronic fatigue syndrome. But I truly do not believe that that is possible and that that is ever going to be possible. I'm sorry if that sounds like a real doom and gloom thing, but it's not. That's actually the invitation. Every single one of us has our own journey and our own path. So that was the concept I was building the book. I mean, my path took 20 years, but I see that now it gave me an opportunity to explore so many different areas. So I was able to bring these in and I was able to reflect back and say, with this modality that I tried over here, it didn't, take me to the finish line. Why was that? Was it the wrong thing at the wrong time, or was it the wrong thing for me? If I could go back now, what would I need to know in terms of marrying up my experience and my symptoms with what that modality has to offer? So that's really what I'm inviting the reader to explore. Um, to act as this guide. So you're tuning in, your journey comes from tuning into yourself. to what am I experiencing right now? What do I have the capacity to try? I mean, that can be energy wise, it can be finance wise, and then just guiding it from there. And with this analogy, we always get out of the maze. It
Mhm.
may take a while. We may revisit points, but I also like to think of my maze now as a beautiful place where I can stroll along nice wide paths. The hedgerows are maybe paved or full of flowers. When I hit a dead end, I imagine there's a beautiful picnic laid out, and it's an invitation to rest and regather myself. So it's not like the Harry Potter maze in the Goblet of Fire where it's dark and tight and you've got creepy things jumping around the corner. No, you're in this maze. It's where it is. So let's make it a beautiful place and accept and enjoy that journey of exploration.
So this analogy of the maze turning into be a blessing. Um, I'm 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 listening to you, Katie, and it's like you're reading to me. I when I'm up, like we read the book every night, and I sit there and I read the words and I hear your voice, but the way you articulate every syllable and every word in the book, you guys out there, this book is a very interesting, easy read. It goes into depth on what she went through, but it's a very interesting read, and I look forward to it. You know, getting into bed. I can't last that long because we get up so early, and I read for maybe 6, 8, 10 minutes, and I'm ready to go to sleep. But all of that, it's not the book that's putting me asleep per se. It's just all I'm trying to say is that the book is so easy to read, and it's really an amazing articulation of you, of who you are, being authentic. So I just wanted to put that plug in there because it really is an amazing book.
Thank you. And I feel blessed that people are reading it and, hopefully getting something from it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, Katie, there's something else. Okay, we talk about the maze, but there's another area in your book that came up that I thought Jeff and I thought was really interesting. You were talking about the traps on the healing journey. And
Mm.
so we're not getting into the nitty-gritty of chronic fatigue specifically, but the healing journey, because there is a process and people hear about the hero's journey. Well, there's also a healing journey that we all go through. And there's traps that you talked about, expectations, ups and downs, judgments was a big one, and the stigma of having chronic fatigue. Because there's certain things that we struggle with that, like if you broke your arm, you're going to get a lot of sympathy because people can see it. But there's a lot of things that we carry, whether it's traumas, anxieties, depression, chronic fatigue, things that you can't see at first blush. And so I think there's a real stigma of not being acknowledged, of people not saying, I see you, and I understand what you're going through. So can you talk a little bit about that challenge on your healing journey?
Yes, so I mean, I experienced a whole range of attitudes towards my diagnosis. I was very blessed to have a supportive family and to have a lot of friends who were supportive. And I was also amazed by some of the reactions. I could sort of see it from strangers. It's like they don't know me, but I know I had a friend who I'd grown up with through school who knew how ambitious, how driven I was, and who literally said to me one day, "Oh, well, when you decide to pull yourself together." I was like,
Wow.
how can you say that? I mean, that would hurt from a stranger, but coming from someone who's supposed to know me, why would you think that I'm making this up or that I've just decided to opt out of my life? I mean, there's a part of me that sort of gets how people can look in on that and just be so bemused by this idea that the body can break down so fundamentally, but so invisibly that you really can't do stuff. And it's not because you've just decided you can't, it's like the body is literally saying no. So I get that that's very hard for someone who's not experienced it to understand. But really, that's a reflection of how we interact a lot with each other in society. I mean, there's so much in this society of invalidation, of not listening to people, maybe because we're a bit scared of hearing their stories and what that might reflect back on us. And there's a perspective I now reflect on that I didn't at the time, that that person was actually reflecting a part of me.
Mm.
There was a little inner voice in me that was going, I can't believe, why can I not pull myself together? Why can't I just get on and do this? It's the little denial piece. And it came from not understanding myself, not understanding or seeing the other parts of me that were going, whoa, hang on a minute. We've been sitting here unseen. We need some validation. We need some support. And we're going to make you take a rest until you see us. So I mean, but that was not an understanding that I had at that time. And as I say this, I am well aware that that may hit a light bulb and switch it on for some people in the audience, and wonderful if it does. And equally, when I was writing my book, and as I'm speaking now, I'm very mindful of me 5 or 10 years into my journey, listening to people saying, yeah, I've been through it and I've recovered, and here's how I did it. I kind of wanted to hit them, to be perfectly honest. And there was a little bit of me that was like, yes, I want to know how you did this and I want this for myself. But there was also quite a big bit that was so frustrated with myself and the situation that almost couldn't bear to hear these recovery stories, because it was like, what am I missing? And that pulls in a lot of self-blame, a lot of judgment of yourself. And so those were all themes I wanted to pull in, because when we're not aware that that's what we're doing, they can end up inadvertently blocking us.
Yep.
As can also the themes of your expectation. And that was the moment I talked about when I got the blood test and, oh, we can sort all this out. So of course I was riding that wave of hope and coming in with the expectation that this particular protocol was going to see me across the finish line. And of course, when it didn't, the devastation of recognizing that was so enormous. Whereas if I could go back and have a little chat with myself in 2016, I would be saying, look, it's one step at a time, one day at a time. Let's take away the expectation. Let's just approach this protocol with some curiosity and see how far it goes. And be aware if we feel like it's not helping us anymore, well, there's lots of other stuff we can try. So don't get too attached to this thing having to be the one thing that sees me over the line, because you can end up then telling yourself stories about, oh, well, that didn't work, therefore I'm different and I can't heal. Everyone else can, but I can't. So then you've created this sort of nocebo effect belief, which will keep you stuck. So yeah, I know I've just thrown an awful lot of different traps into there. It's like navigating a minefield, but I hope by sharing some of those, it just raises the awareness that, oh, well, this could be happening. Could it be impacting me? And it's just being compassionate then to accept that and be gentle with yourself as you notice it.
That
So, having expectations, you know, it's one of the things that I think a lot of people, if not everyone, would would should learn from. Having an expectation of something is setting yourself up for failure or disappointment.
Mm.
And it's really it's academic, but the work that we've all done, I've learned this, but there's a lot out there, a lot of people out there that haven't, and being in that in that place of, okay, this didn't work. We're gonna keep moving. We're not gonna get stuck. We're gonna try not to get stuck. We're gonna keep moving, trying this, that, and the other. And you, Katie, have done this over and over, and you've come to a place. Um, I'd like to call it success. I would like to call it a better place. It's a much better place than you were. But I mean, you were tenacious in on this journey, and not, you went through pitfalls, highs and lows, but you never gave up. that's the thing. You never gave up. So I want to just throw that out there. It's an amazing story. So continue.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask Katie something about because this is kind of following the theme of the book that Jeff and I are reading. You talked about something really okay. First of all, I picked up on the fact that you were saying that you were dealing with physical stuff, and then reluctantly you started to look at the psycho-emotional stuff, and we can call that the shadow work, and we all have that. But what I found really interesting is you said something a little. You said it's important not just to do the shadow work, but for the clear dark clearing, but also bring in the light. What did you mean by that?
Well, I noticed that when I initially heard people talking about shadow work, my head goes straight back to the quote unquote negative. So the emotions that society has taught us are not acceptable. You know, anger might be one, blame, judgment, hatred, denial. There's a lot of them that if we were asked to put them in a camp of good or bad, we'd probably put them in the bad,
Mm,
partly because society doesn't wish to accept them, it doesn't like us manifesting them, and partly because they actually feel really uncomfortable when we're in that space. I mean, it doesn't feel comfortable to be experiencing rage or to be experiencing deep sadness. So that to me was shadow. But as I progressed, I realized that that was a bit of a limiting view of shadow. Shadow is literally the things we can't see. And
Brilliant.
so, thank you. That doesn't have to just be the dark emotions. I might be very comfortable with some of my dark emotions. I might be very aware that I'm carrying anger and have developed, strategies for healthily expressing that to allow it to flow. But I might actually not be aware of joy or love because that can have been thrust into the shadow in childhood, in early life. And the way we put things in shadow is actually through what, we now all talk about trauma. But that word actually needs some sort of definition because it's not about just the big T things. I mean, there's so many of us walking through life going, oh, no, I didn't have any trauma. I grew up in a loving family. We had enough money. We had all this and that and the other. We were in the Western world, etc. No trauma in my life. But there is trauma anytime we find ourselves in a situation where we cannot fully express who we are and process all of the emotions and the experience that we're having. So, whatever in that pot of different emotions we are not allowed to express or we don't have the tools to process, they become overwhelming and they become scary. And we fragment them off and go, well, that little part of me that holds that emotion, that doesn't belong to me anymore because that's not safe. So that needs to sit over here and I'm never going to look at it, never going to touch it. And joy can be one of those things. I mean, there's many children that have this experience of, being at play and having this incredibly joyful experience. And then something happens and they're told off maybe, and that sensation of joy gets interlinked with something scary or something confronting or overwhelming. And this is all going on subconsciously. We don't consciously go, oh, yes, it's not safe to feel joy because then I get into trouble for it. The subconscious takes on that message. You might only be 2 years old, so you don't even remember it happening, but it still created that fragment of you that's not fully integrated and fully seen, and that's your shadow. So that's what I'm talking about and working with now for myself when I'm integrating shadow. It's literally integrating all parts of me, not just the dark parts, not just the light parts, but all of me. I am all that I am. And it's life flows more smoothly when I can see all of that because I haven't got little upset 2-year-olds tugging on my sleeve going, look at me and causing trouble.
Yes. Well, you met. you mentioned something about a contract with the subconscious, which I think is really interesting. Jeff and I were like, wow, that's really cool because so much of our challenge is the subconscious, what we don't see. And it may be projected out other people showing an aspect of our shadow that we don't like to see. There's so many different ways. But can you talk about this contract that you were mentioning in the book?
Yeah, so I opened the book with that as an invitation. It's actually something that I developed that came out of the training I did in neuro-linguistic programming. And the particular, group that I trained with was all about using these tools to get into the subconscious and to clear the blocks that we don't even know we're carrying.
Mm.
And so it was this idea, and this speaks also to the tenacity that Jeff has been kind enough to notice. It's it's kind of this subtle connection where I've made an agreement with my subconscious that no matter what, we're just going to keep taking the next step and the next step. We don't have to know what that next step is. There's no grand plan here. It's just that connection with the subconscious of I'm not going to give up. And from that space, that is like a container that will allow you to bring through the blocks. So when you're in that space of I'm just looking for the next step might be to integrate a piece of shadow. And that's going to feel horrendously challenging, I won't lie. When that comes to the fore and you're experiencing the anger at your diagnosis, for example, or the anger at the doctors that have invalidated you, or the friends that are not seeing you, that's yours to integrate and to befriend and to learn that it comes with challenges and it comes with gifts. So what are the gifts? So really it's this dance, the healing process is going to be this dance between the conscious and the subconscious. And let's start it off by making a binding contract that's an agreement by both parties to carry that forward. So that was my idea, really.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Yep.
All right. Well, I know that we wanted to touch base at the end on a couple of things that you're involved in, Katie. We're going to have you back because there's much more we could talk about. But for today, uh, you have something called the Temple of Rejuvenation. And can you share a little bit about what that's about?
Yeah, so that's literally come directly from the book. So this
Mhm.
is an online space where we gather on Zoom every 4 weeks and we spend 90 minutes just as a group and we'll talk through a theme that's come from the book. I mean, I've just spoken to many of them on this particular podcast. But in that gathering, we have a meditation, which is using my Kolorlan system, which we'll speak about in a moment. We do some somatic work, so I'm offering people tools that have helped me because it's so important all of this to get into the body. It's not just a mind game thing. So much of what we're healing and releasing is carried in our bodies, and we want tools to support and understand that. And then we take a topic of discussion and I present my ideas and my experience on that, and then open the floor, and everyone in the group comes in with their questions and their thoughts and their experiences, and we have a beautiful discussion. So that's the format. If this is appealing to anyone, I mean, anyone who's read the book, you don't have to have done. If you've not read the book, but you're just feeling like, oh, I feel drawn to Katie, then yeah, I'd love you to come and join this space. And it's I have been using the word safe, but then appreciated that actually a lot of us have not known safety. So
Mhm.
being told anywhere is safe can be triggering. So it's a place of peace and love and support. Let me put it that way. So if you feel that's something that would help you, then check it out. And I'd love to welcome you in there.
That's beautiful, Katie. Is this for anyone, not just those healing chronic fatigue, or is it specifically for chronic fatigue?
No, it's for anyone because as
Okay.
I was writing the book and as we've been discussing here today, the themes in it apply
Mhm.
across the
Right.
board. It is really about offering you the space to reconnect with
Mhm.
your wholeness, your true self, wherever, however fragmented you might feel, and whatever diagnostic label has been put on those fragments or not. I mean, it can just be a sensation of, I'm just feeling a bit lost. So yes, it doesn't need to be coming with a diagnostic label or any kind of label at all. It's really, if you're looking for a space where you can explore and reconnect to all of who you are, then come and check us out.
It's kind of like I'm stuck in a maze. Help me.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Okay, and then the last thing we just wanted to touch on, and I'm just going to set this up a little bit that, and Jeff knows this about me, that I'm passionate about color. And I even dress based, like I see color as almost food, energetic food. Like a certain day, I'm like today I felt like blue was appropriate. It was the kind of sometimes it'll be red. And Jeff knows that I color a lot. I do a lot of stamping and coloring just for fun. But you've taken this to the next level. So can you talk about this Kolorlan program, this system a little bit?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this again was unexpected. I just sort of went on this journey where, I mean, like you, Christine, I have always loved color, and I love that you see it as food. It's sort of speaking to what we need to nourish us in that moment.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So I started out, well, I actually had parakeets fly into my life, literally looked up the spiritual meaning of parakeets, and it was all about color therapy. And that kind of set me on this journey. So initially, I was playing with other people's color cards, and I was using a spirograph. I just suddenly had this, I need a spirograph. Didn't know where that came from. And this sort of gradually evolved as I was playing with this, of like, no, no, you're developing your own system here. I was like, oh, I am. Okay. All right. So I ended up well, I started sort of channeling, I guess, geometries. So I sometimes I see them in meditation, sometimes I will actually see them in dreams. And I've had experiences where I've woken up in the middle of the night because I've been dreaming a geometry, and it's like I've had to wake to bring it to conscious mind so I can, get it down the next day. And sometimes I don't see the finished product, but I just know that I'm working with certain shapes, and numbers come into this an awful lot. So, yeah, so I was just creating this stuff. I was coloring, and again, it was intuitive. There are 15 colors that I work with. They're very specific. They each connect to 15 chakras. So we've got the seven chakras that, you know, everyone knows about. And then there's another eight on top of that, a couple more that are linked within the physical body, and then others that link us to the heavens and to Mother Earth. And I see each of those chakras as like a portal, so like a doorway into a dimension, which would be like a field of information that we can explore, because that information is reflecting to us areas where we're ready to release things, to heal things, to see more of ourselves. But it's really an intuitive process, and it's something that you can use on multiple levels. So I've got, yeah, sorry, there's so much I could say about this. The basic level is healing art, really. So
Mhm.
as I was drawing these things and coloring them, I ended up creating, I've got one here. So coasters, so you'll just stand your drink on that. I sent one of these over to a couple in Switzerland who trained under Masaru Emoto.
Mhm.
And for anyone who doesn't know, he was studying water, and he developed this special way of freezing water so you could see the crystals and you could take photos of them. And this would be water that had been exposed to different things. So sometimes it might be music, it might be somebody talking to it, it could be an image. It was really exploring the consciousness of water. And yeah, his work has grown and evolved and been taken on by people like Veda Austin, who's quite in the spiritual side of this exploration. Gerald Pollack, who's on the more scientific side, and he talks about this as structured water. It's what we carry in our bodies. And when our water is structured, so bringing it back to the crystals, it would look like beautiful geometric shapes. That is kind of water that's supporting health. It's supporting our bodies and communicating internally this information flow. So yeah, so I sent that coaster off. They sat a glass of water on it, sent me back images. So I've got images of the water crystals before they'd sat on the coaster and images of the water crystals after. And you could see that coaster was structuring the water. More recently, I've also I've been turning the images into like visual meditation. So it's like watching a video or you're watching sequences of these images. I sent one of those over for testing. Again, it's structuring the water. So I've been creating artwork. I mean, if any of you have noticed, this is what's sitting behind me. So, I actually sell this framed artwork. I have this all around my house. And because our environment is also water, so we're actually harmonizing the environment that we're living in. And each of these geometries are giving out a frequency because the actual geometry itself is a frequency of sound, the color is a frequency of light, and it's almost like composing with them. Every individual color, every individual geometry has its frequency, which has meanings attached to it, which our conscious minds don't read or see, but our biofield does. So when it's in the vicinity of this frequency, it can absorb that information and adjust itself. And yeah, I've got people testing the meditations and some really exciting stuff happening there. So yeah, so that's sorry. So the art is like one layer. Then I've also got coloring books and the beautiful gel pens that are with the 15 colors, a color card deck, so you can use that intuitively to explore what colors are most beneficial for you to work with. Use those gel pens, color in your image, and yeah, you're absorbing all that frequency while you're coloring. You can journal on it because I've shared the information of that would be in each of these color dimensions. So whatever of that is speaking to you, you can journal and reflect, and that helps to transmute stuff. And you can go very, very deep with that, really using it as a daily practice, or you can just use it as kind of more mindful relaxation. And I would just finish by sharing that the name is Kolorlan. So color is Kolor, and that is an ancient Cornish word that means color. Lan, Lan, is also an ancient Cornish word that means sacred place. So together it's sacred place of colour. And my roots are in Cornwall, which for anyone who's not British, that's a really magical county at the far southwest of England. It's said to have been the place where King Arthur resided. There's legends that Jesus and John the Baptist visited Cornwall. I mean, it's really incredible energy and magic there. So I felt like I had to bring that in when I was creating all of this.
So, Jeff, can you see her sparkle and glow?
Yeah. I was just going to say that I definitely need more of this. Okay. So we're going to be having for sure, we're going to have another couple of podcasts, I think, and go deeper into this. But yes, I definitely can see the sparkle. I mean, it's all around and it's truly amazing. Katie, it's truly amazing. So
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
think about this. We started this conversation off talking about the healing journey. This is what you get if you're willing to commit to the journey. You start to kind of blossom in who you are, and we are all creative beings, and we all have a creativity that we're meant to bring to the world. And if we're carrying around this sludge of all, the rocks of all this other stuff that we don't, that's dragging us down. But this is the beauty of watching you blossom, Katie. And I'm actually going to order all your stuff.
yes,
So hopefully a lot of others are going to check out that website. We're going to have links below so people can find you and find that as well.
Thank you.
Katie, is there any final things? Is there one thing, if there could be one thing, what would you leave our viewers with? If there was one thing that you could just share.
It would be to trust that you are on the perfect path for you
Mm.
to just keep taking the next step forward. And I would love to say that if you are, well, you are already on that path, whether you consciously know it or not. And I just want to actually acknowledge your courage in walking that next step, whatever it might be. And I know it does not always feel courageous, but you've got this. And, I hope something has helped and supported and landed for you. And if it hasn't here today, trust that it will. You will find the breadcrumbs that you need. So don't give up hope. You have got this.
Awesome. Katie, thank you so much. Just number one for just being you, being who you are, being so authentic with everyone. Everyone who is going to see this is going to feel that authenticity. We are going to have links below for your work. If you folks want to learn more about Christine and I, we also have a link in the description you can click on and learn more about us and what we offer. So in closing, we just want to say thank you to you, Katie, and for everyone who is going to see this video. And we are looking forward to the next time that we meet, Katie. Thank you for being here.
And just one last closing thought, you guys. Next week, we have another person coming on our podcast that we just want you to be prepared for. We're going to be talking about internal family systems. She's a psychotherapist that uses that modality. I think it's going to be very interesting, whether you know a lot about it or you've never heard of it before. So stay tuned for next week for that one. Thanks again,
Thanks, you guys.
Katie.
Bye,
Thank
Katie. Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.